Good evening. Welcome to the Cape Charles Town Council public hearing and regular meeting, December the 16th, 2021. Can I get a roll call?
Buckholz present.
Holloway present.
O'Brien present.
Grossman present.
Fulmer present.
Let it be known that Vice Mayor Bennett is running a little bit late and will join us in a little bit. And we've established a quorum. Can I get everybody to rise for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Ms. Libby, should I just do each section one at a time, or have you, as far as on this public hearing?
Thank you. I forgot to do that.
Okay, we have one signed up for the public hearing comments, and that's Ms. Jean Snyder.
Okay, so we've got a public hearing tonight for item 3A is 602 Taswell Avenue, conditional use permit accessory dwelling unit. Item 3B, 206A Jefferson Avenue, conditional use permit accessory dwelling unit. Item 3C, 325 Madison Avenue, conditional use permit accessory dwelling unit. Item 3D, 654 Monroe Avenue, conditional use permit accessory dwelling unit. Item 3E, 410 Harbor Avenue, 100 Madison Avenue, conditional use permit, accessory dwelling unit. Item 3F, 4 lots on Randolph, conditional use permit, mini golf. Item 3G, 219 Mason Avenue, conditional use permit, 5 residential units above the first floor commercial.
And Ms. Snyder, can you do?
Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Sure. Jean Snyder, I'm practice director for Riverside Medical Group, in charge of the Cape Charles location. So that's where I have just a question about. We are across the street from 219 Mason Avenue. We struggle with parking and just had a curious question what the plan is for parking for those residential areas that's going to be up top of the building.
Well, we'll just write it down. This is a hearing. We're not going to answer your question, but somebody from staff will be getting back to you, ma'am.
Okay, just wanted to bring that concern to the attention we struggle with. Just a little nervous about if there's an extra 5 dwellings across the street, will that overflow into our parking lot where we already have signs up for towing? So just curious if that had been thought about and just a concern.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No one else has signed up?
I'll make a motion that we close public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, recognition of visitors and presentations, Board of Zoning Appeals semi-annual report. Ms. Katie Nunez, zoning administrator.
And we also have Bill Murphy, our chairman of the BZA, was able to make it this evening
Yep.
as well.
How you doing, Mr. Murphy?
So, thank you for your time. We did submit an annual report to the BZA. It had actually not been done in the last 3 years, so it is a cumulative 3-year report. We did have a correction in what had gone into the packet initially. We had left off 2 of the years of information. I think that has now been provided to you. So this board in the last year has been considerably active. Since I have come on board, we have made sure that we are having a full zoning review of every application coming through the department, which has triggered things having to go for variance request to the BZA. But in that regard, in our staff report, we did outline it and did a little slightly differently than what you may have seen in years past. We have shown all of the board membership changes over the years. plus the staffing changes, which I think is really important to keep track of, to know who came on when and who is really supposed to be doing things along the way. And then when we get to section 3 of our annual report, we did change this format. We felt it was important to really go through and highlight what variances were coming through as they relate to particular types of uses and dwellings and properties. So the way you're going to see it formatted is you're going to see any of the variances that concern single-family dwellings, and then within that, we did segregate out between conforming lots and non-conforming lots. I would recognize and understand why we would have the non-conforming lots needing to come forward to seek any setbacks. The conforming lots are really the ones that we look at quite closely, because if they're conforming lot, we need to get them in conformance as much as possible. And then we also broke it out between any other types of uses, such as fences or accessory structures or commercial buildings. And we did enclose what sections of the ordinance it pertains to, as well as how the BZA acted upon it. Also this past year, the most significant thing that we did from the BZA perspective is we altered their rules of procedure. We updated them, which they hadn't been done in some time. We changed our format of how we were conducting and holding public hearings, so that we had a chance for the applicants to make the presentation first before all the public comments came in. And we think that has really helped the BZA's review of matters and for the public's review of the matter to understand the whole application before they submit their comments at the meetings. So I think we had a pretty good year, and we are trying to streamline a few things for the BZA, and I think they're appreciative of those efforts, and they've been pretty active, and they're continuing to be very engaged in the process. Do you want to add anything, Bill?
No, I think Katie's pretty well covered it. I will say that over the past almost year that Katie's been the zoning administrator, between her and Tracy, it's made the job a lot easier. We're much better organized now than we have been, particularly the structure of how we conduct the hearings. I always thought it was a little backwards the way we were doing it, out of order. Katie got that straightened up, and I feel like the meetings are a lot more streamlined now. We're able to conduct the business in a much better way. I think we do need one member. I think we have one vacancy now, Mr. Weaver, who's the animal health person. But other than that, unless you guys have some questions, I think we're rolling right along with some good leadership.
Anybody have any questions?
I just have a comment. I attend most of the meetings over the past couple of years, and really want to commend you on your chairmanship and Katie's support there on the involvement on some of these discussions. They're very involved, and you methodically walk through and come to the conclusion that you do, and I just want to express my thanks for that.
Well, thank you very much. I always felt like, and we all do, that when people do come before that, they come in already having been told no. So you can't always turn that around and say, well, yeah, you can. But we do like to be sure that when people leave, they at least know they've been heard, and they know the reasons why we're doing what we're doing. And sometimes it's not the decision you'd like to make, it's just the decision that's driven by the law. So, but thank you very much.
I'd like to support that as well. Please take our thank you to the committee, the commission, and their hard work, because it really shows professionalism. And like you said, sometimes you're not saying the answer that people want, and that's not easy. So thank you so much.
Absolutely, so thank you all very much. Okay, item 5, public comments for items not subject to the advertised public hearing.
Okay, I'm Anna Lee.
Good evening, Mayor, Town Council, and Town staff. My name is Anna Lee, and my husband and I have owned a duplex at 107, 109 Taswell Avenue for 7.5 years. We live full-time in the 107 side and host the 109 side as a vacation rental on Airbnb. We also own Barrier Island Salt Company. During the annual budget process, the town manager recommended and town council approved a new $4 per night flat tax on short-term home rentals, but only a $1 per night flat tax on short-term hotel, B&B, and inn rentals. The town manager and town council justified the higher tax by saying it was needed to cover the cost to town of managing short-term home rental grievances and issues. On June 17th, I submitted a letter opposing this based on lack of information and requesting reporting to substantiate it, and I never received a response. On August 26th, I submitted a FOIA request to the town manager asking again to see the details regarding the grievances and issues cited and the associated expenses. After several emails with town staff, I was told that no documentation existed in support of this budget recommendation. I was told that it would cost $200 to generate reporting to show any complaints to town and any associated expenses, so I paid it. While $4 per night might sound like a small additional tax, when you factor in the 230 short-term home rentals in Cape Charles and apply our average annual occupancy rate of 87%, this new tax totals $292,146 annually in addition to the 3.7% tax we already pay. Based on the town's response to my FOIA request, short-term home rentals have actually only increased town expenses by $4,278 annually. This is the cost of the additional administrative work involved in collecting and recording tax checks, which total roughly $172,000 annually, more than covering the additional administrative expenses to process them. The FOIA response also showed that town spent no money managing the 5 complaints received related to rentals during the 15-month period from June 2020 to September 2021, all of which were related to parking and trash, and none of which received a response. Based on these findings, I'm asking the town cancel the arbitrary $4 per night flat tax on short-term rentals. I have no objection to paying more in taxes to cover COVID-related budget shortfalls or much-needed capital improvements to town buildings. I just ask that these taxes be fairly applied across all categories of small business or perhaps across all property owners. Along with my comments, I'm submitting my FOIA request and FOIA response received from town into the public record. My contact information is also provided, and I'm happy to discuss my submission.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any more comments?
Nobody else has
Okay.
signed up.
Okay. Item 7, unfinished business, there is none.
6.
Consent
6,
agenda.
yep. Item 6, consent agenda. 6A, approval of the agenda format. 6B, approval of the minutes. 6C, approval of the October 31st, 2021 financial report. I get a motion.
Make a motion that we accept the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now, item 7, unfinished business, there is none. Item 8A, new business, 602 Taswell Avenue, conditional use permit, accessory dwelling unit.
Mr. Mayor, I'll let the zoning administrator handle these requests.
Okay, before you have an application for conditional use permit from Renato and Jody Lucatello at 602 Taswell Avenue to construct an accessory structure of 2 stories with a height of 24 feet, and the building is 540 square feet. First floor is proposed to be used as a garage, and the second floor as an accessory dwelling unit. The proposed inclusion of the apartment on the second floor of the garage structure is what has triggered the requirement for conditional use permit. This did go to the Planning Commission at their October 2021 public hearing. The applicants did participate in the hearing via phone conference, and we did present our full staff report, which you have seen, that went to the Planning Commission. They have signed the ADU checklist affidavit acknowledging all the ordinance requirements for ADUs, including the 30 consecutive day length of stay. We received no public comments at that Planning Commission hearing, and they closed the hearing at that point in time, and they then fully discussed the application. They asked for clarification from the applicants, and they did state that they intend to utilize the ADU as their residence when they come to Cape Charles, and once they retire, to fully move to town, that they would utilize the ADU as a long-term rental property, with the main house becoming their full-time residence. The Planning Commission then took a vote by Commissioner Buda, seconded by Commissioner Grossman, to recommend the approval of the conditional use permit for the accessory dwelling unit at 602 Taswell on this application filed by the Lucatellos with the following conditions: that the applicant applies and obtains the Historic District Review Board approval for all exterior improvements in accordance with the Historic District overlay and guidance documents, and the applicant obtains all required permits and approvals from the Building and Planning Department, And they also further find that the CUP standards in section 4.3 of the zoning ordinance are satisfied, and that the issuance of the CUP is in general accord with the current comprehensive plan. The motion was approved with one commissioner, Commissioner D'Amico, voting against. The Lucatellas are not present for tonight's hearing. They are overseas currently, so they were unable to participate by phone here, but if you have further questions, I'd be happy to relay those to them if you were unable to make a decision this evening.
Okay. Can I get a motion for 602 Taswell Avenue for accessory dwelling unit?
I'll make a motion that we accept the ADU for a two-story accessory dwelling unit at 602 Taswell with the conditions as noted in the staff report recommended by Planning Commission.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Good.
We got a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I got a question.
Okay.
What's the main residence being used for right now?
They are using it as a rental property.
Short term?
Yes.
See, this is gonna open a can of worms, quite honestly, because we're trying to avoid people from using accessory dwelling while they're renting out their main place as a short-term rental, and then they're living in their accessory dwelling. So that's gonna open up a can of worms that we're trying not to have, because these accessory dwellings are designed for long-term rentals. Because we're having a super huge problem with that. So now we're gonna, if we do this now, what's gonna say that, they continue to do it? How are we gonna have checks and balances to stop that?
Well, we
That's
had
the problem.
we had that conversation at Planning Commission, and you'll see this in another one or two of these tonight. Meeting the letter of the law as written, or the letter of the ordinance as written, is being fulfilled. Yes, it doesn't meet the intent of what we envisioned.
But we need to address that.
We are, and the Planning Commission and Kate are gonna bring this back to the Planning Commission in January to change ordinance language.
Mike,
So
go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, in the meantime, then are these grandfathered into any changes, or do these go through and, right?
They would currently apply and receive consideration under today's ordinance. And they do meet the intent of today's ordinance and the letter of the law of today's ordinance.
And how would we monitor that it's actually happening? That the accessory dwellings are inhabited for 30 days? How is that going to be monitored?
Again, we will monitor as we receive any complaints that come in, or if we need to do spot checks, we can do that on each of these conditional use permits. It is one of the elements I'm working with our current staff in that department right now to get a full index of all of our conditional use permits, any conditions, and a calendar for inspection purposes to ensure that they, one, are being built or adhered to under your conditions and maintained under your conditions. So I can't say that we've got it fully worked out because we're still trying to bring a full complement of staff to this department. But yes, that is what we are building towards so that we can set up the back half of operations, which is compliance and inspections and performance conditions are being met. So.
Councilwoman Holly?
And follow up really to Ellen's note. I don't know what legally we can do, but I've always felt like some of these conditional uses are just, you get it and it's forever until you do something maybe of question. And I have concerns over that, because if there had some kind of statute of how long it lasted and then it needed to be renewed, then we have some ability to go forward. It's a discussion I want to bring up long term, but I'm just curious of, so a conditional use permit we give today and it's just granted till, right, forever.
Until the
Owner.
stops using it for that use in which it was granted.
Right, right.
Or
And
is
is
in
there,
violation.
Or cells.
and is there any ability to make a conditional use tonight with a calendar year or something to it? Is that something we have authority to do or is possible? Especially because we're about to look at these. This is a lot of approvals tonight, and I think we all have a little bit of hesitation, not with what the people are doing by any means, but with our desperate need for long-term rental. This is why we did the ADU approval originally.
Under section 4.3, which is the rules that govern conditional use permits under your zoning ordinance, You have the right to set what conditions you find are reasonable to confirm the health, welfare, and safety of your town citizens.
Okay.
So if you do consider that you would like this to be on some sort of renewal cycle, that can be one of the conditions you advance as part of this. I can tell you that's not something we've ever apprised any of these applicants that could be a possibility, because we've never seen that in the history so far
Sure.
of how conditional use permits have been handled through the town. So I'm not saying you may not get some pushback, but
Sure.
I'm just making you aware, yes, you have that right to do so.
Yeah.
But some of the comments in here said that we've never really addressed any of this
Right.
before in the past, so there isn't any precedent to.
Well, it's relatively new.
Yeah.
And you
Right.
discover, we put the ADU in place a couple of years ago, and you discover these things as applications come through. You start testing the waters, and we found that there's tweaking that needs to be done.
Correct.
And one of those tweaks could be one of the stated conditions, there will be an annual renewal
Right.
and certification that it's being used in compliance with the checklist affidavit that they
Right.
had to fill out at the very beginning.
Did they express how long they were gonna be coming to town? None of that was expressed then?
I think their intent is to retire here within the next 2 years.
Well, I get that, but I mean,
Yes.
I'm trying to figure out from an extent, if they're only using it once or twice a year, I mean, I can see that as being, I understand that, but
It's hard to give you a good answer on that
Yeah.
because the travel implications that have happened due to the COVID.
yeah,
It has made predicting their travel right now a little challenging.
Yeah.
well, if we do a conditional use and then they're here for 9 months, that's kind of a, why don't you live in your house? That's
Would,
what I'm getting at.
would the rest of the council be open to adding a time period for the conditional use? I don't know how we do that from a motion perspective. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, amend the,
But Andrew has something to say, but,
I'm hesitant with the ones that are before us tonight. I know in the past, some of us up here have been critical of, say, the Historic District Review Board telling applicants, well, we're going to change this rule in January. Yeah, well, that's not the rule now, so you can't apply what you think you might pass in January. I agree tweaking needs to be done, and I think it can be folded into our future discussions and into our discussions on a regulatory framework for short-term rentals. I don't think, I have a problem with adding new rules that we haven't necessarily discussed and passed and discriminate against this
Yeah.
batch.
I wasn't necessarily thinking that.
Can I speak?
Oh, sure.
real quick? I want to,
They're saying that you can't be heard on Facebook, so please speak into your
Okay.
microphones.
I want to touch on what Andrew was just saying. I don't think, as council, we should hold people accountable for our rules currently, because we're going to make new rules in the future. And setting time limits and stuff, I don't think it's right. Now, I think going forward, I think we need to set rules. There's a loophole that's been found. It's something that we've created. We need to fix it. Until it's fixed, I don't feel like that we should punish the people that has applications before us today. So,
but are you opposed to what Councilwoman Hollower is suggesting on
I
a
am.
time limit?
So
I
I'm,
am.
just to clarify what I was saying, I'm not basing this on what we might do in January and changes and what could, because I completely agree. We can't punish people tonight on what we might do. What I'm just saying is, can we just add a deadline? This expires in X time. That has nothing to do with the parameters of what the specifics will be. It could be just as easily next December 31st, they apply and nothing's changed,
But I
and
think
it's
if
the
they're
same
before
thing.
us tonight, it's basically the same situation. I mean, it's under the same set of rules as, say, the Lees, who were just here and have a short-term rental. They don't have, whether they got that years ago or someone got the conditional use permit last month, they're applying within the same set of rules. So to now hold these people to a different set of standard when we haven't changed our rules and apply conditions that we're not putting retroactively on everyone else who already has it, I don't disagree with the motivation.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's fair.
Why wouldn't we do it retroactively for anyone who has an accessory dwelling unit?
That would be a different discussion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's, as long as we're treating people within the time
Same.
period
Right.
equally,
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. That's a different.
But that would only mean
be a di-
Ellen new. That would be
a
new.
different
It wouldn't be,
discussion.
any existing,
But anything before us tonight, I don't think we really have grounds for treating, like inventing new conditions or rules versus if they come before us.
but
and
I'm
say,
not suggesting new conditions or rules.
Well, an expiration date.
Yeah,
That's
We haven't done it-
renewal
We haven't done
of,
it before, have we?
yeah, but it's not a new condition, like if you don't do this, you don't get this. It's just a renewal every year
Right,
of
when
doing
they
it.
renew,
I think
they'll
that needs to
come
be a
back, and then
policy
it's gonna have the new
discussion.
rules, and then they'll say, okay, well, you can't do that.
Well, if they're saying they're going to do what they're going to do, then why would that be a problem for renewal?
Yeah, just
I
think
mean,
that's a
they're
policy
saying before
discussion.
us that this is what they're going to do, and we don't have any, we don't check on anything.
yeah.
No, I agree with the motivation, I just
Yeah.
don't agree.
Just to offer maybe a suggestion, if I can interject. Maybe you could condition it such as that they are required to fill out the affidavit annually, which does indicate all these conditions for the conditional use permit for an accessory dwelling unit. And if they are unable to successfully submit that affidavit to the community, to the town, then they would then be subject to a rehearing to consider a repeal of the conditional use permit. So that way it is still there, it is provided to them, and we're asking for an annual statement certifying.
And I
it's
think
still
that's
being
what I
used.
was hoping for. Sorry, I don't know the
If they
difference.
cannot provide that affidavit to us annually, then they would be subject to a hearing before this body to consider a repeal of the conditional use permit, if you so issue it tonight.
And that's just asking them to support what they've said that
Yeah,
now.
restate the-
That restate what they've said, they're going to use it as a long-term rental. That's all I really care about.
But our current requirement is that they can't use it as a short-term rental, correct?
They can't,
Can't use it as a short-term rental for under 30 days.
Correct.
So if we're applying a hurdle that we haven't applied to the previous applicants, I think it's still the same issue I raised. If we're gonna discuss it as a policy issue and whether or not to go back retroactively and apply it equally to everyone, that's different than introducing a new
That's,
rule
that's where we got caught, because basically if an owner's in their own accessory dwelling, it's not considered a rental. And they can only be there for a week and then have their primary residence as a short-term rental. That's where we got caught.
But it's
We
legal.
didn't.
The thing is,
we
it's
did
legal
not-
right
I
now.
know, I know, but that was completely not the intent. And that's why there was such a struggle for the accessory dwellings ever to get passed, because of that particular reason. It was designed especially for long-term rentals, for people that can rent something at a lesser
No, I know,
price.
and I
That's
totally
the-
agree.
That
I
was
just,
totally the intent of it.
I-
And we
Right.
did
I
not
don't think
cross
now
those
is the
Ts.
time to apply it to these applicants.
Can I,
Correct, I agree with you. I agree with you.
I'm gonna step in for 1 second. I just wanna, for the record, let it be known that Vice Mayor Bennett, is here. And just to get you caught up, Mr. Bennett, we have a motion on the floor, to approve, conditional use permit, for 602 Taswell accessory dwelling unit. We have a second, and we're in the middle of discussion. So,
and in the discussion, the proposed, it wasn't formally amended, but was to make a adjustment to it being a one-year deadline, so that it has to be renewed every year. And Katie suggested it, not the conditional use part, but the affidavit be renewed. Did I kind of accurately get him to
Right.
speed? And then you've heard, I think, the other.
Well, I missed the
discussion.
beginning of Andrew's.
but I do
Talk,
have,
so.
I do have a question on that. Do we have the staff to handle affidavits and stuff?
Currently today, no.
Okay.
Do we intend on growing that staff? Yes. So that this could be part of our process by the end of the next calendar year? Yes. I concur that that would be one of my items of discussion and recommendation to the Planning Commission when we are taking this up in January. It sounds like we've got a host of issues that might get commingled in our conversation in January as we take up accessory dwelling units, and how we're treating them it sounds like we got some issues with short-term rentals, that might be part of that conversation. A few things, and so, yes, we should have a little tighter standards that we have in our ordinance, so it's really clear what we're doing and how we administer them.
Andrew, you want to recap for Vice Mayor Bennett?
Yeah, just quickly, I said I agree with the issues raised and the motivation. I don't think it's fair to the applicants before us tonight at this late stage to introduce the condition of it, them having to renew it annually when that's not something that, say, applicants who were before us last month or 6 months ago, or the people who have the existing conditional use permits have to do.
Is that part of this application? I don't see that yearly thing.
No,
It
that was
isn't. I
introduced
just,
in this
Okay.
I
discussion.
added that as a
And
possibility.
I thought it was unfairly, and start imposing a new hurdle on these applicants, because people have, you know, they have made these plans based on the conditions and laws we have right now. And if someone has spent money and made plans to do exactly what we're trying to discourage, they've done it within the bounds of the existing laws, and to tell them at this late stage, oh yeah, that was within the rules, but yeah, we decided we didn't want that. I think.
But we're only asking them to do what they've agreed to do. It's
No,
not like,
we're not. We have not, if I'm understanding correctly, what we have said is they have to affirm that they're not going to rent the ADU out as a short-term rental. Have they signed an affidavit that says they're not going to live in the ADU in the summer and rent out their house? If it's already in there, then I don't think we need to have this discussion. But they're not required to use it as a long-term rental. They can
but
use
that's
it
what,
as a guest
so
house.
maybe Katie can explain then what that paragraph means. I just maybe have
No,
misunderstood.
That's their current plan, but
Right.
they're not required to do that under our rules. And so we'd be depriving them of a right that under our existing rules and laws, they have, that someone who got the conditional use permit last month has. I would be open to discussing this as something we'd go forward for people who have not yet started the process. But I think in a lot of these, I mean, people have spent, I mean, because we've got some that are retroactive that have fallen through our cracks. I think it's, if we're gonna change the rules, people need to know it before they've purchased property and made plans. I just think we need to be fair, that's all. I totally agree with the motivation on what the issue is. I just don't think we should do ad hoc changes.
So is the motion currently on the table to do exactly what is stated here?
Yes.
To approve it
Yeah.
with these two conditions?
No, with no condition. The
No.
conditions
Yeah,
have not
with the
been introduced.
conditions,
No,
with the conditions.
as
Oh,
identified.
yeah, oh, the
in-
ones listed, yeah.
Yeah, the two,
As they were identified.
Yep.
right.
The main motion has not been amended.
Right.
So it's just as a point of order. My recommendation is that if someone wants to offer an amendment, please do. If you get it a second, you can talk about it and vote on it. If not, you should vote on the main motion.
So we have a motion, we have a second. Anybody want to offer amendment? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Me too.
It passed 4-2. Up next, stand by. Item 8B, 206A Jefferson Avenue, conditional use permit, accessory dwelling unit.
This is again an application from Susan, John, and Kelly Robinson at 206A Jefferson Avenue, seeking approval after the fact to utilize a 576 square foot accessory structure as an accessory dwelling unit. The current owner did not create this situation, but purchased the property on May 3 of 2021 and inherited this situation. When the town received a complaint and investigated about an illegal apartment, we did confirm that it was being used as an apartment, and we did not find any approvals that had been rendered by the town. The owners at that point did act rapidly to come into the office and correct this matter and file the conditional use permit application on August 12th of 2021. We did find it to be in compliance now that we understand the full living situation occurring for the Robinsons and their intent and how to use the property. We do find that the proposed use of the structure as an accessory dwelling unit requires a conditional use permit, which required a hearing between both the Planning Commission and Town Council. Planning Commission held their hearing on October 5 of 2021. Applicants were in attendance and spoke at the hearing. We also presented our staff report, which you also have in your packets. They also signed the ADU checklist affidavit acknowledging all the ordinance requirements for the ADUs, including the 30-day consecutive day length of stay requirement. The applicants indicated they are living in the main house at 206 Jefferson Avenue and want to have the accessory dwelling unit for long-term rental. They indicated this has been used as a rental for the last 25 years. We received no public comments, and the Planning Commission closed the public hearing to further public comments. They discussed this further and then made the motion by Commissioner Grossman, seconded by Commissioner Holloway, to recommend approval of the conditional use permit to the Town Council with the following motion. To recommend the conditional use permit for an accessory dwelling unit at 206 Jefferson Avenue as an after-the-fact approval on the application filed by the Robinsons pursuant to Cape Charles zoning ordinance section 4.2J with the following condition: to obtain a certificate of occupancy through the building department for this accessory dwelling unit, and that the applicant has expeditiously applied for this permit after the fact for this structure upon notification as the new owners of this property as of May 3, 2021.
Can I get a motion on 206A Jefferson Avenue for an accessory dwelling unit?
I'll make a motion that we approve the conditional use permit for an accessory dwelling unit at 206A Jefferson Avenue with the condition as noted in the staff report to obtain a certificate of occupancy through the building department.
Second.
Got a motion, got a second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item C, 325 Madison Avenue, conditional use permit, accessory dwelling unit.
This is from an application filed by Jose and Diana Gonzalez at 325 Madison Avenue, seeking approval after the fact to utilize a 360-square-foot accessory structure as an accessory dwelling unit. Again, when we received a complaint and investigated, we confirmed that there was an accessory dwelling unit on the property and being utilized as such. Our research indicated the accessory structure was built in the mid to late 2010s when the ordinance did not specify the requirements for an accessory dwelling unit, but did not actually give authority for an accessory dwelling unit as a by right use either. And the town did not amend the zoning ordinance until 2017 regarding accessory dwelling units. We did do our review of this and found the application to be in compliance with all the requirements of the zoning ordinance since the accessory is an existing structure. The proposed use required a conditional use permit to be advertised for public hearing before the Planning Commission and the Town Council. At their Planning Commission meeting October 5, 2021, a public hearing was held. The applicants were in attendance and spoke at the hearing. We presented our full staff report, which you have received, including the full application packet that was submitted by the applicants. They have also signed the ADU checklist acknowledging the 30-day consecutive day length of stay. We did have some discussion about the definition of a kitchen and what components should be included or not to define a kitchen, such as a stove. I think, again, this will be items raised when we bring up the whole matter of ADUs in this zoning ordinance in the future. The applicant stated they never intended to do anything wrong and had been in touch with the town while they were constructing the accessory structure. A statement from Diana Gonzalez about parking for the accessory structure was read into the record. Written comments were also received by Janet Dudley, Edmund Sabo, the Pattons family, and Michael and Jean Hollister in support of this application. On all were read into the record for the Planning Commission. I believe they've also been provided to you for tonight's hearing. We received no further comments, and the public hearing was closed, and the Planning Commission discussed the application and made the following motion. Motion by Commissioner Holloway and seconded by Commissioner McCoy to recommend approval of the conditional use permit with the following. As an accessory dwelling unit at 325 Madison Avenue as an after-the-fact approval on an application filed by Jose and Diana Gonzalez pursuant to Cape Charles zoning ordinance section 4.2J with the following condition: to obtain a certificate of occupancy through the building department for this accessory dwelling unit, and finds that the CUP standards in section 4.3 are satisfied and that the issuance of the CUP is in general accord with the current comprehensive plan, and that the applicant has expeditiously applied for this permit after the fact for the structure upon notification that a conditional use permit is required for an accessory dwelling unit. and the motion was approved with Commissioner D'Amico voting in opposition.
Can I get a motion
Oh,
for
before we- I
320?
just have a question. The main house was used as a vacation rental in this
Yes.
case. I just want people to be aware, this is another case of that. So I'll make a motion, Mr. Mayor.
Okay,
Make a motion that we recommend approval of the conditional use permit for accessory dwelling unit at 325 Madison Avenue with the condition as outlined in the staff report to obtain a certificate of occupancy through the building department.
we have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Item 8D, 654 Monroe Avenue, conditional use permit, accessory dwelling unit.
Okay, this is an application from Michael Ryan and Anna Lee Wilkins at 654 Monroe to convert an existing 576 square foot accessory structure as an accessory dwelling unit, specifically the second floor for living quarters and the first floor for recreation purposes with no parking of the vehicles within that structure. We did a staff report dated September 29. We note the site plan and the building layout were not part of that application packet. Since then, we did receive that information prior to the Planning Commission public hearing, and the application was found to be in compliance with the zoning ordinance. And the proposed use of the accessory structure as an accessory dwelling unit requires a conditional use permit both before the Planning Commission and the Town Council. At their hearing at the Planning Commission October 5 of 2021, the hearing was held. The applicants were in attendance and spoke at the hearing. Staff presented the full staff report, which was amended in person to indicate zoning compliance based upon the submittal of the site plan and building layout. The applicants have also signed the ADU checklist affidavit acknowledging all the ordinance requirements for ADUs, including the 30-day consecutive day length of stay. They indicated they had purchased the property, and their realtor had indicated there was a rental space as part of the property. As soon as they were informed that the structure had not been approved for dwelling purposes and rentals, they took the steps to end the rental until the property was in full compliance. They also indicated there is parking available in front of the garage as well as in the alleyway. No public comments were offered, and the Planning Commission closed the public hearing to further public comments and then discuss the application. A motion was made by Commissioner Grossman and seconded by Commissioner McCoy to recommend approval of the conditional use permit for an accessory dwelling unit at 654 Monroe Avenue on the application filed by Michael Ryan and Donna Lee Wilkins pursuant to Cape Charles zoning ordinance section 4.2J with the following condition: to obtain a certificate of occupancy through the building department for this accessory dwelling unit. And they further found that the CUP standards in section 4.3 of the Cape Charles zoning ordinance are satisfied, and that the issuance of the CUP is in general accord with the current comprehensive plan. Said motion was approved with Commissioner D'Amico voting against.
Can I get a motion for 654 Monroe Avenue for accessory dwelling unit?
Make a motion, Mr. Mayor, that we approve the conditional use permit for an accessory dwelling unit at 654 Monroe with the condition as outlined in the staff report to obtain a certificate of occupancy from the building department.
We have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed.
Opposed?
Opposed.
So, passed 4-2.
Okay.
All right, item E, 410 Harbor Avenue, 100 Madison Avenue, conditional use permit, accessory dwelling unit.
So we did have a run of these, so sorry for the repetitiveness.
It's okay.
It's my house.
Okay, so this is an application from Tom and Amy Schwarf at 410 Harbor, more specifically 100 Madison Avenue, to remove an existing shed and replace the new accessory structure, size 13 by 30 or 390 square feet, with the first floor to be used as a garage and storage space, and the second story of this accessory structure to be used as an accessory dwelling unit. They have been before the Historic District Review Board on November 17th, 2020, and then again on April 20th, 2021, regarding renovations and additions to the existing house, as well as to discuss the removal of the existing shed and inform them of their intent to seek a new accessory structure with dwelling on second floor. The HDRB at their meeting on April 20th of 2021 approved a certificate of appropriateness for the work on the main house and the removal of the shed. It was noted as part of that meeting that the applicant needs to seek a conditional use permit first for the accessory structure And then if that is approved, then they would still need to come back before the HDRB to obtain a certificate of appropriateness for the new accessory structure. Zoning review was completed on the application and found to be in compliance with all the requirements of the zoning ordinance. The proposed use of the second floor of the proposed replacement accessory structure as an accessory dwelling unit requires a conditional use permit with a hearing before both this body and the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission held their hearing on November 9 of 2021. The applicants participated by phone call. The full staff report was presented, including the full application packet submitted by the applicants. They also signed the ADU checklist affidavit acknowledging all the ordinance requirements for ADUs, including the 30-day consecutive length of stay. The applicants stated that their intent is to provide a long-term rental space. No public comments were offered, and the Planning Commission closed the public hearing to public comment. And the proposed motion made was a motion by Commissioner Grossman, seconded by Commissioner Strube, to recommend approval of the conditional use permit for an accessory dwelling unit at 410 Harbor Avenue / 100 Madison Avenue on an application filed by Sam and Amy Schwarf pursuant to the Cape Charles zoning ordinance section 4.2J and section 3.2C7 with the following conditions: that the applicant apply and obtain Historic District Review Board approval for all exterior improvements in accordance with the Historic District overlay and guidance documents. And 2, the applicant obtains all required permits and approvals from the Building and Planning Department and further finds that the CUP standards in section 4.3 are satisfied and that the issuance of the CUP is in general accord with the current comprehensive plan. The motion was unanimously approved.
Can I get a motion for 410 Harbor Avenue / 100 Madison Avenue for accessory dwelling unit?
I'll make a motion that we approve the conditional use permit for an accessory dwelling unit at 410 Harbor, 100 Madison, with the conditions as stated in the staff report about going to Historic District Review Board for approvals and obtaining the necessary permits and approvals from Building and Planning.
Second.
We've got a motion, we've got a second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Same.
All right, so passed 4-2. Item F, 4 lots on Randolph Avenue, conditional use permit, mini golf.
I do want to state, and I should have noted if there are other applicants here, I do know both of the next 2 applicants are present if you do wish to hear from them this evening. So with that said, we have an application for conditional use permit from Tom and Katie Austin, who are the contract purchasers doing business as Cape Charles Mini Golf Inc., to construct a mini golf course on 4 lots on the listed tax parcels. There are 4 properties on Randolph Avenue, which are located directly across from the entrance to Heritage Acres. This is Zone Commercial 3, and the proposed use is a permitted use under Section 3-8B2. With a determination that the zoning administrator did bring this to the Planning Commission in February of 2021, and the Planning Commission agreed that this would be an acceptable use, contingent upon a conditional use permit being issued by the town. Said application was to consider and include parking, lighting, landscaping, setbacks, and visual aesthetics of the proposed project for all of our parties concerned to consider this on this stretch of Randolph and Stone Road. We have worked extensively with the applicants, and we are in recommendation of this application. It's in full zoning review and compliance on all elements that we identified. The Planning Commission held their public hearing on November 9th. We presented our staff report. And in particular, there are several questions that I've raised in the staff report, which the applicant did address at the public hearing process. And specifically, they stated they would like to offer some light food fare, beer, wine, and canned cocktails on the premise. Their hours of operation would close at 9 p.m. during the summer season and reduced hours in the shoulder season. The width of path between holes will be ADA compliant, as well as each hole will be ADA compliant. They intend on having 2 speakers to play ambient music with no live music on the property. It would be a low-key place for families to come and play. There would be a black aluminum fence similar to the park surrounding this property. They will also have a small dumpster on the southeast corner of the course, and they will have trash cans throughout the course. They have provided a landscape plan and are looking to improve the look of the property along Randolph Avenue, and they believe this will help provide a buffer of noise as well. The lighting will be a historic type pole seen throughout town and will have a baffle on top to direct the light down in keeping with the town's lighting ordinance. There will be landscape lighting on the course itself, which will allow for mini golfing in the evening hours. They are working on the sign, a 4 by 6 foot, and will submit that for a sign permit application. So all of these comments were submitted to address items I raised in the staff report that the Planning Commission asked for clarification on. They are working on finalizing the site plan, including the stormwater plan for submission to the state and VDOT for their review and approval of the proposed site plan. There were discussions about the golf cart path and when exactly and where exactly will that be located in relation to this property. They stated that the course design and layout will mimic the feel of the town by having historic nautical aspects, old trains, elements of the eastern shore, such as the horses of Chincoteague. All of those will be design elements contained on this mini course layout. I did state that we have not required the applicant to include a sidewalk in their site plan, and I wanted to raise this item to the town council so that you can weigh in on this matter and see if you will require this to be part of the site plan development. We did receive one public comment from Benjamin Lewis in support of this application. No further comments were received, and the Planning Commission closed their public hearing. Their discussion resulted in a motion made by Commissioner Holloway and seconded by Commissioner McCoy to recommend approval of the conditional use permit for a mini golf course on Randolph Avenue at the listed tax maps on an application filed by Tom and Katie Austin, along with all attachments pursuant to the Cape Charles zoning ordinance, section 3-8B2, as determined by the Planning Commission at their meeting on 2/2/2021, that this use type requires a conditional use permit and that said application is in accordance with the comprehensive plan, and said conditional use permit is subject to the following conditions: that all signage shall be in compliance with the sign requirements of the Cape Charles zoning ordinance, section 4.1. At least 20 parking spaces will be provided as required by Cape Charles zoning ordinance, section 4.5, BG3. A full lighting plan will be submitted as part of the final site plan that fully complies with the Cape Charles zoning ordinance, section 4.4E, exterior lighting. The final site plan is conditional upon affirmative third-party reviews by DEQ, VDOT, and the town's third-party reviewer, Enviro Management LLC, and incorporation of all comments from said reviews into a revised and submitted final site plan. The final site plan will incorporate the requirements of the Cape Charles zoning ordinance, section 4.5M, which details the replacement and screening for dumpsters, and a historic district review board certificate of appropriateness needs to be obtained, and the building official certificate of occupancy needs to be obtained. And the last condition that the Planning Commission placed on this was to stop admissions of new players onto the course at 9 p.m. in the summer season, so that if someone came in to play, they could sign up till like 8:58 and continue to finish playing for the paid course, but no one else could come on to play after 9 p.m. And the motion was carried unanimously.
Okay,
As I referenced, the applicants are here if you do wish to hear from them.
I got a question before we
Yeah,
go to
me
the
too.
motion. If this is a by right, why are we even here?
We did not find it as a by right. The
It- what-
Planning Commission had to
But if
review
it's-
it.
if it's a
Let her
recre-
finish. Let her
if it's a
finish.
hold on a minute.
But
If
she was
it's a-
answering your question.
I know, but under there it's recreational. How is this not recreational?
Because under this commercial zoning district, it was not found to be a by right use. It was found to be a use similar and acceptable within the commercial district, but the Planning Commission, when they made that determination in February, indicated it needed to be through a conditional use permit, and they outlined why they were seeking this as a conditional use permit requirement, so that they could evaluate everything dealing with the parking, lighting, landscaping, setbacks, and the visual aesthetics of the
We've never
property.
done that with anybody else in this town. Now all of a sudden we're gonna hold these guys like hot. I mean, this is pretty extensive considering what we've done with everybody else. This is pretty over the top, in my opinion.
They have adhered. They have met all of these
I
requirements.
get
and are-
that, but they had to go through that to get to this level. It's kind of over the top.
Well, to me, most of these items are requirements in the ordinance right now, and they're just spelling out in the CUP what they have to meet. So there wasn't anything above and beyond, except, I'll say, accepting new players onto the course
Yeah, but
after
I-
9 o'clock. That's about the only difference. Otherwise, all this stuff is required anyway.
Yeah, and how are we gonna police that? Are we gonna police that? I mean, does that really need to be in there?
Well, we were talking about protecting the people that live across the street from us.
It's also-
And that's
I mean,
why
then
that's why it came up.
Then the historic portion of it, it's not in the historic district.
No, I believe it has to be brought before them, well,
It does because you, the town council, have assigned,
We assigned
Let
them
her finish
to.
speaking.
review all building projects that are in the C2 and C3 zoning
Right.
districts.
Correct, we gave them to approve it, not to bring it into the historic district.
No,
No.
they issue a certificate of appropriateness. The standard of review is far less for everything in the C2 and C3 districts. It doesn't adhere to the same standards as C1.
so I'd like to make a motion
Go ahead.
that we recommend approval, we approve the conditional use permit for a mini golf course on Randolph Avenue at the 4 tax map parcels that are called out in the staff report, subject to the conditions as also delineated in the staff report.
Second.
All right, we got a motion, we got a second. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Good. Where we at now? Item G, 219 Mason Avenue, conditional use permit, 5 residential units above the first floor commercial.
As just stated, we have this application from Todd Bricken for 5 residential units above the first floor commercial at 219 Mason. They have now closed on the property since we have gone to public hearing before the planning commission, and we've included that information in tonight's staff report. It is in the zoning, in the commercial zoning district C1, which allows for a dual use of commercial residential. The applicant has submitted a floor plan for the 5 residential units on the second floor of this building. 3 of the units are proposed as 1 bedroom or apartments or lofts, and 2 of the units are 2 bedrooms. We've been working with the applicant extensively since early summer of 2021 in compiling this application, including all the associated zoning requirements. Specifically, one of the most significant issues is the parking requirement, how this can be addressed either on-site or through a signed shared parking agreement for off-site parking. The applicant has made concessions to include 3 parking spaces on the property, including 1 space within the building. And that is how we went into the Planning Commission public hearing, which was held on November 9th, 2021. While we had still not resolved how the additional parking requirements would be met, we felt that we needed to move forward with that public hearing and present that information. We had extensive conversation about this component of the application at the Planning Commission meeting. And staff did indicate that while the parking requirements had not been fully met, that efforts were still being pursued by the applicant to secure meeting the parking requirements. And then commissioners discussed whether emergency vehicles will be able to traverse the alley with cars parked there. Mr. Bricken, as the applicant, stated he had purchased residential property in town, as well as this commercial property, and is looking to retire to Cape Charles in the near future. He has changed the staircase in the rear of the building to accommodate 2 spaces as well as the 1 space within the building. I did ask for input from the Planning Commission about possible property owners that might be amenable to a shared parking arrangement with Mr. Bricken. Some suggestions were proffered to Mr. Bricken, which I think he pursued, but was not successful in those conversations. I was also asked to confirm the required number of parking spaces. No public comments were received, and we did close the public hearing to public comment. The Planning Commission recommendation, again, was taken without this additional knowledge I've included in the staff report. But they made a motion by Commissioner Grossman, seconded by Commissioner McCoy, to recommend approval of the conditional use permit to the Town Council for 5 residential units on the second floor of a commercially zoned building, contingent upon resolution of meeting the parking space requirements either on-site through a shared parking arrangement or through an approved Board of Zoning Appeals variance for relief from the parking space requirements, and also with the condition that the final site plan is conditional upon affirmative third-party reviews by DEQ, VDOT, and the town's third-party reviewer, Enviro Management, LLC, and incorporation of all comments from said reviews into a revised and submitted final site plan. And a Historic District Review Board certificate of appropriateness needs to be obtained, and a building official certificate of occupancy needs to be obtained. Since their public hearing, Mr. Bricken has continued to work on this project. He has now shared the closing documents, including with that is the easement for the alley behind the Watson's Hardware. And he's asked his surveyor to consider this easement and whether additional parking could be provided. And he's now also provided the current survey of the property, as well as a survey proposing the addition of 3 more parking spaces beyond what was in his Planning Commission application. And so both surveys have now been included in your packets for your consideration this evening. So I still hold that it is 6 parking spaces that he needed to supply, and I think he has now met that intent.
All right, so that's to answer the question that was brought up during public comments, that 6 parking areas are now provided behind the building. in order-
Officially designated
Yes.
parking? Mhm.
Yes, it is part of the site plan he has provided to us and would be part of what we sign off as approval, if this is all.
I'm not very good at reading those site plans, I'm sorry, that's why
And
I'm
they're
glad
really
you
small, I
clarified.
apologize, I
They're
brought the
like-
larger ones too.
I have a couple quick questions for Katie. So I do remember from the planning commission meeting, the uncertainty over the number, whether it was 6 or 7. So what is can you remind me what the formula is to determine, because I guess it was, so 6 would be 3, 1 for each of the 3 smaller units and 1.5 for each 2-bedroom?
I believe so.
Okay.
And I'm sorry if I'm a little
No,
fuzzy on this.
I trust that
didn't
you
go
checked
back
it.
and
No,
re-
no.
I didn't refresh it again before tonight's meeting, but I did.
No,
before
I
just
believe
before.
your number. I just wanted to know how we got there.
Yes.
And my second was, okay, so this easement, this is a permanent easement?
Yes,
So now when whoever buys the building next to it comes to us, they cannot count those 3 spaces towards their development?
that's correct.
And they can't take away the easement?
That's
It's-
correct.
Okay.
Well, one of the things we gotta keep in mind, Mason Avenue has always been a disaster for parking. I.e., take Kelly's Injury, and they got a seating occupancy of 99. They literally have 3 parking spots in front of them. So that Mason Avenue has always been a bear. The fact that he was able to pull 6 out is a miracle. So this is great news. That's all I'm saying.
No, he met the requirement. I just wanted to make sure that
I know.
I understood it correctly.
Yeah, it's just
I'm
wait till
not
the-
sure what it does for the value of the
Yeah,
property
well,
next door.
Just wait till the east end of Mason Avenue comes up. That's gonna be a fun one.
Can I get a motion?
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the conditional use permit application for 219 Mason for 5 residential units on the 2nd floor of the commercially zoned building, and it meets also the conditions as outlined in the staff report.
Second.
Got a motion, got a second. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Thank you, Katie. Certainly appreciate your time this evening. Okay.
Smitty.
Yeah.
What,
I gotta go too.
shouldn't we,
You want to take a break?
shouldn't we say something?
You want to take a formal break?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. Can I get a motion to take a 5-minute break?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
All right, can I get a motion to come out of our
So moved.
break?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 8H, Harbor Area Review Board Member Reappointment.
So, Mr. Mayor, straightforward, Mr. Stuart Smith is currently on the board, whose seat expires in a few days. He's expressed desire to continue on the board, and staff would recommend reappointment.
Make a motion, we reappoint Stuart Smith to the Harbor Area Review Board.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank
Aye.
you.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Smith. Item I, Architectural Service Contract Amendment.
So this is a follow-up, Mr. Mayor, to the action that you took on September 16th, when you awarded the contract to HPA on the space study and options for staff office space. We've looked at it and decided that the Phase 1 environmental that we discussed last time, for all practical purposes, has already been done. And so we would like to move it to the next level of environmental review. Also, you'd asked to have the library included in the analysis. So we got a figure on that. When we add everything together, it takes us over the limit you told us we couldn't pass. So we're back and requesting an additional $3,497 for over the limit. So staff's recommending the council support these amendments to the contract, $5,000 $40 for the environmental assessment and $19.48 for the library addition to Phase 1 scope of work.
I'll make a motion that we approve those two additions.
Second.
We've got a motion, got a second, any discussion?
Just a question, when would we be able to see some results from this?
Fairly soon. We've already have raw numbers and on space. I'm working with Bob and others to start trimming them down. So we're getting there. Just a lot of irons in the fire right now.
January, February?
Yeah, around
Okay,
there.
okay. I just want to tentative. I
Yeah.
want to see where my money's going and what I'm going to see.
He wants to see a little ROI there.
Yeah.
No other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Item J, Civil War Trail interactive signage.
This is an interesting one, Mr. Mayor. We were contacted by the Civil War Trails Organization. It's a group that's been working for over 25 years or so with communities to kind of connect them with activities associated with the Civil War. And they wanted to install an interpretive sign here on the Eastern Shore, and they wanted to highlight the life of Peter Jacob Carter, who was mostly with his involvement is with the entire county, but they needed a place to put it, and so they were looking for a nexus where they could put it. And one of the things that Mr. Carter did was he was the keeper of the Cherrystone Lighthouse, and so that was their reason for trying to put something here. So they found sponsors and donors to cover all costs for installation of the sign. They'll handle the maintenance of it. They will. I'm sorry. This would have to go on Bay and Washington area. So the plan is to put it along the boardwalk as far north as it makes sense to do that. Just so long as you can view where the old lighthouse used to be. That's the requirement. If we were to ever renovate the boardwalk and beach area and move things around, they would, at their expense, come in and move the sign to a place of our choosing, as long as you could still see where that vantage point. So this would be another reason to bring people to town. People who going around following this trail, and so there's really no downside as far as I can see, and staff recommends approval.
Is there a memorandum of understanding written between the town and this group as far as what you just went through?
No, but I will make sure we get one.
Yeah,
I'd
I
say
think that's what I'm-
expectations, especially in the future, if we have to move.
The
based
movement,
on Whatever
Well,
happens.
especially if the dunes get too high, because the Cape Charles Lighthouse is south.
Well, we're
No,
on
this
Cape
is the
Charles
Cherrystone.
This is
Cherrystone.
Lighthouse, which
Yeah,
was
that's
at-
why it's on the,
which is over
on
there.
the north
My
end.
bad, wrong direction.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we
So-
move ahead with the Civil War Trail.
So if I sorry to interrupt. So then I would request that
Yeah.
that the motion you make is that you authorize the town manager to sign an MOU that outlines the details in this staff report.
So moved.
Second.
We've got a motion by the town manager.
Indirectly.
We got a second. All in favor?
Wait a minute.
Oh, discussion?
I have some discussion, yeah. I have a hard time with this, and at the risk of uncovering a scab, but we just tore down a Civil War monument in Eastville because of its reminder to slavery, and this, to me, is the same thing. It's a reminder of slavery. It's a thing from the Civil War, and whether he fought for the North or the South, to me, doesn't make any difference. I have a hard time with this. Suddenly, we can do one thing, but we can't do another. So, yeah, I find this to be less than, I mean, the website for this company is very poorly done, very nebulous, doesn't have a lot of information as to why they do what they do and what their purpose is. It is very big on getting donations for what they do. But, yeah, I just have the difficulty putting up a monument that references the Civil War when we're tearing them down.
I strongly disagree. I think that mischaracterizes the removal of the statue in Eastville. It was when nobody's been trying to forget the Civil War. It was because that was honoring someone who had owned slaves, and my understanding is fought for the defense of slavery, which we don't want to forget, but it was an effort to put it in the correct historical context, not as something to be blindly honored. I don't think this is the same situation at all. And the fact that we wouldn't have to pay, they'd be paying for the maintenance, they'd be paying for removal. If we get the MOU, I think it's great.
Do we know the size of the sign? Because,
The-
I mean, a sign is very different than a statue, just in physical structure. I'm just curious as far as, in doing that. I understand. You
Sorry, didn't mean to
understand?
interrupt.
No.
I did find out, and I think it was like the 3x4. I think it's, you know, the 3x4 kind of a sign is what I was,
Is it a cast sign?
see if I can, I don't know if I brought that with me.
They didn't ask you to make it?
I'm fine with that. It's probably a cast. Is that
Yeah.
that little bump in the, maybe is it that little bump in
I don't think I have it with me.
the Cherrystone area? Is it that little bump in the, where the grass shows every once in a while?
Yeah, it used to be a big island there.
Yeah, okay. I know what it is.
I don't have it with me.
I don't think it matters. I was just more curious.
Well, it can't be bigger than sign ordinance, I suppose.
Right, I mean, it does need to, but that would be part of the MOU. I mean, it does need to meet our sign ordinance.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Me.
Let it be known as passed 5-1. Item K, comprehensive plan consultant. Spend more money.
Because we're not doing enough around here. So, Mr. Mayor, there was two needs identified earlier in the year in my work plan. One was to assist the Planning Commission with the continuing development of the comp plan, but also to do an overall zoning ordinance review and update. And just as a refresher, we're undergoing an enormous project right now for all ordinances. We have a separate, nothing to do with this item, but we already are under contract with a company to review all of our other ordinances, non-zoning ordinances, and we're making progress with that. We decided that it made sense to rather have two contracts that would do the comp plan and the zoning, to combine them into one and roll from one to another as a phase 1 and phase 2 work. Now, the way we structured the RFP was that they were separate items. We could have awarded one without the other, but we decided to take that approach. We received three proposals that were all good proposals. They were all from qualified companies. The review committee was the zoning administrator, Councilman Grossman, and the chair of the planning commission, and then myself. We felt that at the end of the day, Summit Design and Engineering Services proposal captured our reality better. I mean, the Planning Commission's already done an awful lot of work. There's been a lot of public engagement prior to COVID, and where some of the other proposals kind of started from scratch, and we would have paid for it starting from scratch. So
In both time and money.
time and yes. So I was a little disappointed that this was going to take a year, but the other two proposals were 2 years. So and much more money. Now, this was not based on only money, it was based on the qualifications, but all 4 members of the review committee independently evaluated Summit as their first choice. And so I'm comfortable with that, and I'm looking forward to getting this moving again, and staff would recommend approval for award to Summit Design for the comp plan and zoning ordinance update contract.
Just a clarification on the 1 year's effort. We've broken it up such that the comp plan portion comes first.
Yes.
Within eight months, and then it gets into both zoning and our zoning maps. that
Yes,
we
the
are
zoning map is an
combined
integral
in that.
part, an integral part of this. We desperately needed
Right.
an updated one to include GIS capability.
So I'll make a motion that we authorize town manager to sign agreements with Summit Design and Engineering Services in the amount of $61,275 for the comprehensive plan and zoning ordinance updates.
Second.
Got a motion, got a second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Have fun, Paul.
Item 9, town manager comments.
Not a lot tonight, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to report on the status of the strategic plan community survey, and very pleasantly surprised at the turnout. As of the time I left my office, we were at 349. So I think we were going to be well over 350. I think that's a really good turnout. We just as a curiosity, we've gotten almost exactly the same thing. One survey different. We've got just as many paper surveys as we did electronic. So almost half and half. So it's really important that we did both. I think it really was critical to having a concise 2-page survey that was easily read and managed and go out with the utility bills. People took it out, filled it out, and then sent it right back with the utility payment. So that worked out really well. For the residents, not so much for my assistant, who had to input all that data into SurveyMonkey.
Yes.
But I'm really glad we're doing the SurveyMonkey too, because it's really easy to do, and there's really easy ways to rack and stack the data, and you can track it better. It's a little more pricey than I thought it was going to be, but
It is, but it's worth it.
but it's a good tool, and so I'm looking forward to presenting that data to you soon. But I wanted to make so we've been trying to make a push for this last week. The survey period closes tomorrow, so we reposted it on Facebook on Monday. Thanks to Main Street, they put it out on Tuesday. We put it out in Nixle today, and I wanted to push it one more time tonight. We're accepting until 2 p.m. tomorrow. So anybody who has not participated in this survey, please go to the website, and it's right on the front page of the website. Click on it, and please participate in the survey.
You mentioned cost. How much was it for the SurveyMonkey, you're saying?
Yeah, they kind of lure you into this little one, but then if you want
If you want to be able to do
you have
this
do
and
the
that.
upgrade, and I don't know.
It's like Dropbox. You
Think
get
$5 grand, 10 grand?
Oh,
Oh,
no,
no, like $100 bucks.
It was in the hundreds, not thousands.
No, no, like it starts you off as like a free thing,
Here's
but
a
then
great
if you want to
catch
do
with
any
trip-
charge, it's like $99.
It was like $600.
I was going to
Then
give
it
up
goes
my
up for what you want to do.
That's your salary for the year. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah. Compared to what we've just spent,
Yeah,
Nothing.
It was in the $600 or $700 range.
All right. I pass on that question. I withdraw it.
The only other thing I wanted to let you know is that I have been able to set up a meeting for the mayor and myself to go over your legislative priorities with Delegate Bloxham. We'll be doing that next week. And Mr. Mayor, I just found out just before I came over here, we hadn't gotten contacted back by Senator Lewis's office, but they contacted me just as I was leaving for this meeting. So hopefully we'll try to get that set up too. So we'll be pushing your priorities, explaining your priorities next week, hopefully, to our representatives. And other than that, I just would like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a great New Year.
Thank you, Mr. Hosen. Mr. Fulmer.
Okay. I have a few. First, I want to thank Public Works. I noticed today that all the leaves in the gutters on Mason Avenue had been cleaned out in time for this week's Festive Friday, and it looks great, so thank you. That was a pleasant surprise. For us to maybe discuss after the new year, I'd like us in a work session or something to discuss the option of doing some work in committees. We've got a very full agenda for the coming year and only so much staff bandwidth. I think tonight's discussions show the need to try and, leverage some efforts on the short-term rental regulatory framework. So maybe something where we have, I'm not sure how it's been done in the past, a couple members of council, a member of staff, a couple qualified members of the community. I just think we could, in committee, do maybe some of the work that we're leaning just on staff to do. And they could leverage our enthusiasm and expertise. Again, not as something urgent. I'm just curious because little discussions going on here and there. At some point, could we get, or you could direct me if it exists, sort of an inventory of all the real estate owned by town? I've been surprised a couple times here since joining council, like, oh, well, we own a little bit of this land over here and a little bit of that over there, and I know the way they sometimes come to be owned by town, whether it's like in the
Sure,
taxes.
I'll provide-
So it's just,
I'll provide that.
yeah, that'd be great. And then to raise a concern, not related to our discussion tonight, but that came to light in my review of all these ADU requests. You recall I raised a similar issue in the context of the Historic District Review Board a few months ago. I'm concerned when I see members of our commissions advocating against policies adopted in our comprehensive plan and this council. So when you have member or members of the Planning Commission saying they don't agree with ADUs, and by policy just voting against them because they think we've missed the mark, when their job is actually to interpret the policies we've set and whether the applications meet them, I think that's really a problem. And I don't know what the answer is. If I know we have members of staff present, we have, in most cases, a representative council present. Is it one of their roles to remind the commissioners what is and isn't their job? But I just think it's a real problem when we have that going on in public, working against our adopted policies. And Merry Christmas, everybody, and Happy Hanukkah and everything else.
Mr. Grossman.
I'll agree with the happy holidays, and I'll just pile on with regards to the committees, because you got parking, you got boats,
Yep.
you got RVs, you got short-term rentals and ADUs. There's a number of subjects that could be split up, and
Yep.
assistance helped with the staff. That's all I have.
Mr. Brown.
I have nothing. Happy holidays.
Vice Mayor Bennett.
Happy holidays.
Concur. I think you guys know on the committee work. One of the things that was very successful with that is that we had, so that we're not eliminating planning and zoning and all of those things, is in the past we had someone from Planning Commission as well as town staff, council, and community members. And it was a good formula to work, so it would be lovely to get those back in place. Congratulations to Julie on her first official town event. There will be many in a row, I know. The grand illumination was wonderful, the lighted golf cart parade. It was just great to be ended then by the lighted boat parade and other festivities. So it was a happy night in Cape Charles. It truly felt like our little Mayberry had kind of come back to life, which is good. Hopefully you'll get out and enjoy the last Festive Fridays tomorrow. They've been wonderful. They've been really well attended. Our businesses are very happy. Our residents are happy to kind of enjoy their town again in a lot of ways. So thank you for everybody that puts a lot of effort into that.
Please come by the booth tomorrow. I will be serving beverages for a few hours.
Andy's,
It's not a kissing booth.
yeah,
And Katie, misunderstand me for my sometimes I get overzealous, and there was no ill will for cutting you off. Just apologies.
I only kicked him 3 times before I actually grabbed him.
I just get a little over
Yeah, I was
I
gonna
know
say,
you
she's
do.
on the face.
I know you do, but, and Merry Christmas to all, Happy Hanukkah and Happy Holidays, whatever you happen
Celebrate.
to,
Celebrate.
I got a couple things. First, I want to talk about and touch on what John said about the survey, how important it is for all our residents or all our property owners in time to complete this survey tonight. Get on your computers right now. You see me. Get on your computers. You're on it right now. Do it. So to the extent that you're going to have over 400 tomorrow, because Facebook got mad at me today because I shared it so many times through Messenger that they blocked me from sharing it.
I yelled at you.
So I get
You
to re-up.
did.
I get to re-up again tomorrow morning.
That's right.
And I know where I left off.
That's funny.
So, with that being said, I want to say, Festive Fridays. I can't tell you how appreciative I am of the effort that's been put into it, but I gotta say, and I hope Main Street and everybody, all the shops and everybody hears this. I can't tell you how many people have stopped me, called me, friends that's come into town, and I'm gonna tear up right now, I'm sorry, but I do every once in a while, this is crazy, to tell me how it makes it feel like old days again. It just makes it, the older people and stuff, it just the people, and so hats off to everybody involved. When I get phone calls and messages like that, it just gives me chills, which I've got right now. I can feel the hair standing up on top of my head. So thank you all very much. Thank Main Street, all the businesses and shops. Well done, and it's fun, and it's awesome. So thank
Special
you.
shout out to Katie Sabo, who
Yeah.
is our coordinator this year through Main Street, who has boundless amounts of energy. Young people are always good to put this to place. But a big shout out to our snow lady over there, Miss Deb Pocock, who's been there every week running the snow machine. I mean, really, it's above and beyond.
Well, thank you all. Got a few announcements to make. December the 17th, tomorrow, town office is closing at 2 p.m. for employee Christmas party. December the 23rd and 24th, town office is closed for a Christmas holiday. December the 31st, town office is closed for a New Year's holiday. December the 31st, dropping of the crab pot. What annual is this, Julie? What annual?
No.
I put her on the
Just
spot.
make up a number.
She's like, I don't know.
You know, I was looking at my photos the other day, and I'm missing a crab pot. I'm missing like 2018. I gotta find somebody's got a
I've got it.
picture.
I'll send it to you.
when did it start?
16, right?
14, right?
14, I think.
It was
13.
14. I made the numbers. That's why it's 14.
Yeah,
16,
14 was the first year, I think.
Yeah, 14 was the first year.
So,
I don't remember 14.
where we at? January the 6th, Town Council special meeting and work session. January the 8th, Town Council Town Hall meetings, strategic plan is tentative. January the 12th, Town Council executive session, board interviews, it's tentative. January the 13th, Town Council special meeting and work session, tentative. January the 17th, town office is closed for Martin Luther King Jr.'s Day. January the 20th, Town Council regular meeting. Can I get a motion to adjourn the public hearing and regular meeting?
So move.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed?